Should be. All right. Hmm. All right. Yeah, I just wanted to kind of show some things that I've been working on. I've done a lot of work on just, like real minutia, graphics wise, enhancements to the stages. So basically, in the elevator stage, I added, um, reflection on the background, so you could actually see the elevator reflected in the windows and the buildings in the background. And I've done some other enhancements where, for example, if you do the so if you see in the background the pool, basically the pool now reflects the clouds that are scrolling in the background. And so you get that too, when you play in the arcade story mode as well. Um, and also the Uptown stage actually has enhancements in the first half too before you go up in the elevator. So the buildings now also have cloud reflections in their windows. So but yeah, basically you can see the reflected clouds in the in this uptown high rise level. So then if I go to this other uptown variant, see how, I mean, it's probably going to be really subtle and actually difficult to see, but with the stream and the shitty frame rate. But if you can kind of, maybe when I scroll, if you can kind of see when it's scrolling, that the cloud reflection layer actually moves independently from the buildings. So it's that kind of Daytona effect. It's pretty subtle. I didn't want it to really look that different from the original arcade, so I didn't really overdo it. But basically, those are some just little details that have been going in there. Something that was a big pain in the ass that I wanted to do. I've never been happy with the subway exit stage. It just there wasn't enough going on, and it's kind of exacerbated by the fact that if you play at a really wide uh, aspect ratio, there's just not a lot in the stage, and so it just looks so repetitive and terrible. So so basically, it was a big pain in the ass. I did some more palette swapping. See how this is kind of like the normal graphic for the lights in the subway exit background. And so basically, I just did a palette swap to basically just adjust all of the colors down, to make them the same as like the normal dark bricks. And so what you end up with is essentially just like like a dark variant of it, and then that basically lets you do something like you do with the basement stage, where you can make the background flicker. And so let me just skip there. And so that's level 33. So now you can see, you know, these lights actually flicker, and what's nice about it is that there's some randomization going on there, and so it creates some variety. Like it isn't just a repeating background. Some things look different, depending on the timing. And so that's pretty nice. I mean, it was a big pain in the ass though, because you can notice even the pipes below the lights actually change lighting, and it's all synchronized. So yeah, so basically you get that effect. I mean, and it kind of adds a little visual flair to this level that it didn't have. It needed something, and it didn't have it. So yeah, so I think that looks, that looks pretty good. The Yeah, and then I'll bump up the aspect ratio so you can kind of see, like how far you can take that effect. Because it doesn't really show so much just at a relatively normal aspect ratio. So if I bump this thing up, let me do. So I'm running at 3840 by 1600. So if I set the height to 720, that should give me a pretty wide aspect ratio. And so you see how you just have all these randomly flickering lights in the background. And so yeah, I said it gives it something. When you have like this is a case where it's so extreme that this stage won't even have scrolling, just because at 3840 by 720, it's just so wide. It's like it's it's like double ultra wide. So but I'm pretty happy with that though. I think that kind of gave this stage some oomph, that it didn't have. I was just never happy with it. And I also fixed, the issue of, you probably noticed like the warping on the, like the tracks at the bottom of the stage. And so there's some other interesting stuff going on too. I should probably pick somebody faster so I can show it. So if you'd played older builds, actually, you know what? I don't want this. I want one of the endless stages. Basically, you probably noticed, if you played it before, that I love kicking this shit. Oh man, I missed it. I love kicking the barrels back at enemies and knocking them down with it. But so basically, if you played it before, you probably noticed that you could get some, kind of jittering when you're moving on the screen, because I always keep all the objects on the screen at once. But now you'll notice that this doesn't happen anymore. And so what I did was I adjusted the camera, so the camera basically has a cooldown. So it basically says something like, if I hit the edge, I have to, wait a few moments before I'll allow you to continue to try to scroll. And so that solves the problem of the camera constantly jittering as you're just constantly edging a little bit forward at a time. That cooldown, saves you from doing that. The reason the jitter was in there before is because of the coordinate system in the game. I'm kind of doing, some non-straightforward stuff where the original games were all integer math. So, your position is always going to be just, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's never going to be 1.5 or 1.4 or, some weird floating point number. But the problem with, integer positioning is that you can't really have smooth, slow scrolling. Essentially, you can think of it in terms of resolution. The slower you move, the more position resolution you need to still make that movement slow, or to make that movement smooth. And that's why, like, when you play old Super Nintendo or Genesis or Nintendo games, whenever they have like clouds in the background that scroll really slowly, you'll notice that they just kind of like stutter step. They don't actually move smoothly. And the reason that is because when you can only move one pixel at a time, it's like, how smooth can you really move? But because this game supports, theoretically any refresh rate, and it can just get infinitely smooth. I mean, like I said, like theoretically, if you had a 1,000 hertz monitor, this game will run at 1,000 hertz. And so you have so much precision. Like the movement can be so fluid because basically just all of those just little increments of movement are all captured. But there's some trade-offs there. So basically, the way the coordinate system works is when objects are in motion, I take their actual floating point position and I use that. And so, for example, if I jump and I'm moving, it's actually showing it in a floating point position. However, if you're not moving and it stops, basically if your position during the current frame is the same as it was during the last frame, I will know that you haven't moved, and so then I'll basically round the position and then lock you to the pixel grid. And you basically want that because I'm sure you've like seen that there are like some like shitty indie games that use like the Unity engine or something, and you'll notice that even though they have pixel art, if you like take a screenshot of them and look at them really closely, you can see how the pixels don't actually line up on a pixel grid, and that's because they are doing movement with floating point numbers probably, and they're not rounding the position, and they're not doing anything to to lock to the pixel grid when objects aren't moving. So I have some kind of like weird hybrid system where it's kind of like halfway in between the old style arcade and like a contemporary PC game, where when everything's moving it's super smooth, but when it stops moving I lock it to the grid so it doesn't look terrible. And it tends to work pretty well. I mean, it doesn't really screenshot that well because like, for example, like, see, if I pause it right now, if I were to take a screenshot of this and zoom in on it, because there are things moving, you could probably see where some of these things don't actually line up with the pixel grid. But when I land, and then if I took a screenshot, then I could see that, oh, okay, it lines up now. So it doesn't really screenshot that well, but the overall look when you're playing it is actually pretty nice. And so there are some interesting things going on there where if you play at the game's native resolution, and by native resolution I basically mean 224 pixel height, I basically treat that as CRT mode. And in CRT mode, I always round positions. And the reason you have to do that is because just due to the nature of the way CRTs work, things look like shit when you are like moving things with floating point precision, because basically when a character when the pixels for a character are like moving from scan line to scan line, it looks really shitty if they're like halfway in between. And so for CRTs, you just have to eat that. For CRTs, it just looks a little choppier. You don't get the super smooth movement, but it's not that big of a deal though, because with a CRT, for the most part, you're probably only going to be running at the normal 60 hertz anyway, so you don't really get the benefit of playing on like a 144 hertz or 240 hertz LCD. So that's kind of what's going on there. But I mean, basically, the program has the ability to do it either way. When I put the source code out there, I mean, you could kind of screw around with it and do whatever you want. Like if you wanted to, if you didn't like that behavior and wanted to change something. But that's kind of the solution that I just couldn't let it go. I mean, like, for example, if you look at the background right now, just like the cloud movement, like those clouds are moving very slowly. But if you move them, in integer increments, it would be choppy as shit. You just couldn't get the smoothness that I get, with integer positioning. So that's why I made that choice. Basically, there's just been kind of like just a lot of like really subtle polishing things going on too, where I've been tweaking the way some of the behavior works. For example, like so say somebody grabs me and I'm at the edge of the screen. And see how the Andori guy, he's actually holding me off the screen. So basically, when he's done choking me, before, if you played an old version, you'd probably notice that you actually fell off the screen and you'd have to like actually move right to get back on the screen. But now when you're released, I basically just automatically I just pop you there, right at the edge of the camera. So that was just kind of a little change that makes it play a lot better. And then there have been like a lot of subtle gameplay tweaks, that I'm still working on, and so I'm still just super polishing this thing, trying to make it as good as I possibly can. But yeah, I mean, just because of everything that's been going on lately, it's been really crazy at work, and so I haven't had as much time really to work on this as I had before. But I'm probably going to do another release, so there's probably going to be a new version for people to mess around with these latest changes if you want to. I'm I mean, it's a lot of fun. I mean, just to play, the whole thing through. There are so many interesting, like, emergent properties, that come from the game, just because there's so many, like, weird things the characters can do. So, for example, on the elevator stage, when Rolento throws grenades at you, you can actually knock back the grenades, as they're in midair into other enemies. And if the Andori characters are charging you, their charge is actually a knockback. And so if they're charging around, they can actually knock a grenade, across the room into you. So there's all kinds of, crazy things that happen when you play the game. It's pretty awesome. Yeah, I'm still like. I've improved Poison a lot if you play with her, but I'm still just kind of like the hardest thing is just finding a way to make some of the more limited characters actually kind of fun to play. It's just like bleeding rocks, because there's so little to work with. There have also been some. I decided against it, but like I actually got really far with it. I actually went to the extent of. Just as a test, I actually ripped all of the Guile sprites from Street Fighter 2 Champion Edition, and I was just gonna fuck with it. I was just gonna say it's like let's just see. I mean, it's kind of I wasn't planning on doing it, but I did actually hook it up and I made them playable. But the thing is, as tantalizing as it is and as awesome as it is, ultimately the sprites just don't work. It was a failure because the whole problem is the graphics just weren't drawn at the same scale, and so it isn't right when you're playing Final Fight and Guile is like towering over Hagar. Like Hagar should always feel huge on the screen, and it's just stupid when like Guile is as tall as Hagar. It just doesn't work. But like down the road though, I might actually just maybe for fun do something, hook up some more things, just because they have so many more animation frames. There's so much more to work with that you can actually do a lot of fun stuff. And this engine is actually, really. I mean, it fits in really well. Actually, it's actually pretty cool to, like juggle and combo people with Guile and all that. Because I'm sure you've seen, those like open bore or whatever hacks that use like Super Nintendo sprites or anything, but it's like those are crappy. I mean, when you see the arcade sprites at their actual correct aspect ratio and everything, I mean it looks fucking amazing. But like I said, it just it just doesn't work. It just doesn't. It just ultimately doesn't work. And I'm really kind of a stickler when it comes to making sure that all of the minutia of the art really matches and is aesthetically consistent. So I just ultimately just like I said, it was really tantalizing, but and then on top of everything else too, I mean even like the palette, they like the palettes are so different that like the skin tone contrast between the Final Fight characters and Street Fighter characters just kind of looks weird. It just kind of makes it just they don't belong in the same universe basically is what the problem is. So like I said, it's tantalizing, but ultimately no go. Yeah, so that's just kind of an update on some of the I mean basically I've just been adding just like a ton of crazy I mean and even to just I mean like so many subtle little things. Uptown entrance is 43. Yeah, I mean, just even minutia like on the uptown entrance stage, um, I didn't like the animation on the elevator. Oh yeah, and so well maybe you can see the clouds now. I don't know, but but basically like I wasn't really happy with the way the elevator just kind of like came down, and it didn't really have a lot of juice, and so I wanted to knock back the chandelier into one of the enemies. But yeah, but basically, I've even just been adding like a lot of little touches. So for example, when when the elevator comes down, there's a little animation on it now, and so basically it kind of like it kind of like jitters up and back and forth, so it kind of looks like it's coming down like an elevator, and so it doesn't just like artificially stop moving. Um, so yeah, so you can see here when the elevator comes down, you can see there's like a little bump. Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's just. I mean, I'm telling you, like every little fucking detail. Like, and you see the clouds in the background there on the building, scrolling as the things going up. I mean, really, like it's just. I mean, you have no idea how obsessively I've thought every detail of this game through. Um, Yeah, I mean, so yeah, I mean, just like I said, I don't even remember. I don't even remember all the things I've done because I've literally done hundreds of things, and so there's been a lot of little tweaks to basically everything. Oh yeah, you also notice too like when characters start, see how the energy bar is that kind of like neon green. So because this game doesn't really have lives, it's basically just like when you run out of life, you can continue. Um, just because the enemies can kick the shit out of you so fast, I've changed it so that you basically start off with effectively 3 times health, which effectively is just basically like saying that you have 3 lives, and so you don't get your ass kicked quite as fast as you used to. Um, which it definitely needed. But like I said, but I'm still trying to work out some of the characters though, and so because all of the bad guys' movesets aren't complete yet, the AI is still placeholder, just because like I said, I can't really decide what I want to do for the AI of each character until I have all of the movesets defined, and I won't have all of the movesets finished until I'm happy with them as playable characters. So there's basically still that to do. Um, so in any case, that's just kind of a status update on what's going on there.